Hey, my name is Clarissa Blake. I'm 25 years old living in Austin, Texas. And this story isn't just real, it broke me in ways I didn't even know were possible. It's about trust illusion and the terrifying realization that someone you love might not even be real. This is not a story I ever thought I'd share publicly, but maybe someone out there needs to hear it, needs to believe they're not alone in doubting the very face beside them. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share this channel. If this story stirs something inside you, this story is written and edited by Dark Lifeside Diaries. It was the summer I was supposed to heal. I had just ended a 3-year relationship with a man who loved alcohol more than me and finally said goodbye to my draining job at the marketing firm that made me hate Mondays, weekends, and everything in between. So when I met Marcus, I was broken, vulnerable, and wide open like a house with no doors. He walked into my life like a breeze and stayed like a storm. I met him at a late-night poetry reading at a tiny venue in East Austin. He wasn't even performing. He was standing by the wall drinking black coffee, wearing a charcoal gray hoodie. And that quiet intensity that makes your chest ache before you even understand why. Our eyes met for maybe 2 seconds. But I swear something passed between us. You know that feeling when you look at someone and something in your bones tells you, this person will matter. That was Marcus. He came up to me after I read a piece about emotional abandonment and said, you made sadness sound like a language I used to speak. I laughed. I didn't know I should have run. Marcus was different from anyone I'd ever dated. He didn't ask the usual, what do you do? Or where do you see yourself in 5 years? Instead, he asked, what makes you stay when everything in you wants to leave? And when's the last time you felt completely alone in a crowd? It was unnerving, but intoxicating. In just 3 weeks, he knew things about me that even my closest friends didn't. He made me feel seen, truly achingly seen. He was an artist, a street photographer. He had no social media, no website, just rolls of film and stories in his eyes. He moved light-footed through my life like a poet with a secret. I fell for him faster than I ever thought possible. I wasn't just in love, I was entranced. He started staying over. He cooked without recipes, painted notes on my bathroom mirror, left me books with underlined quotes like breadcrumbs. We had that deep 3 a.m. kind of love, sleepy, raw, messy, and unfiltered. But even then, something felt off. He chalked it up to trauma, my own overthinking. He didn't like taking photos with me. He never let me visit his place, said it was his space. He never introduced me to his friends, claimed he kept his circle small. Once I saw a strange number flash on his cracked phone screen during a movie night. The name said Dr. E. He ignored it. Just an old professor, he muttered, and I believed him. Because when you love someone, you give them the benefit of the doubt until it becomes the knife in your back. Things started unraveling the night I met one of his friends outside a coffee shop. She recognized me. Oh, you're the girl he paints? I blinked. Paints? Yeah, she said, confused. He always brings canvases to class. Your face is everywhere. It's haunting. I had never seen her single painting, not one. That night when I asked him about it, his jaw tightened. They're private, you wouldn't understand. I nodded. But something inside me split. Then came the night I accidentally opened his journal. He had F'd it out. I didn't mean to pry. I was cleaning. But the moment I flipped it open, my eyes caught a phrase that made my blood freeze. Clarissa number 3, progress, good, still unaware. My name numbered, labeled, track page, der page, phrases like observe, response to jealousy, test, loyalty, threshold, simulate, vulnerability. Wasn't love, it was an experiment. My knees buckled. I sat on the floor, journal in my lap, nausea climbing up my throat. Was I some kind of project to him? A study, a test subject? My mind raced. Was he even Marcus? Was that his real name? I took photos of every page I could before he returned. When he walked in smiling like nothing was wrong, I couldn't look at him the same. Who are you? I whispered. His smile faltered. I'm the man you love. No, I said, trembling. You're the man who pretended to be who I needed. He didn't deny it, just looked at me heartbreakingly calm and said, I didn't expect you to make it this far. I ran from the apartment That night I didn't go home. I couldn't. My apartment was filled with him, his scent on the pillows, his paint-stained hoodie still draped over my reading chair, half-finished coffees we brewed together. Polaroids of us taped to the fridge that I now realized were never taken by me. He had taken them secretly. Most of them were candid, me reading, cooking, sleeping. At first, I thought it was romantic. Now, I felt watched, hunted. Instead of going home, I drove to my friend Celeste's apartment and stayed in her guest room. I didn't sleep. I just stared at the photos on my phone, the images of that journal. Clarissa number 3, how many were there? I started scrolling back through every conversation I'd ever had with him. In my head, every weird moment, every cryptic comment, every unanswered question. I tried calling him once, not because I wanted answers, but because I needed to hear the voice of the man I thought I knew. It went straight to voicemail. The next morning, I got an email, not from him, from someone named Daniel. Arcane subject line. I think we were both played. Inside the email was a photo of me, one I'd never seen, one I didn't remember taking, and below it, my name is Daniel. My girlfriend's name was Lena, I believe. She was Clarissa number 2. We need to talk. My hands went cold. This wasn't just a bad boyfriend or a secret life. This was a pattern. I replied immediately, cautiously asking for proof. Daniel sent a link, an encrypted Google Drive folder. Inside were photos, journal scans, and my blood froze. Videos. Some of them were of Lena, others were of me, some of Delaney, all of them filmed without consent, without us knowing. Hidden cameras, parked cars, public places, bedrooms. I wanted to vomit. I sat in silence as the walls of reality closed, and this wasn't a romance gone wrong. This was manipulation, surveillance, a performance. And Marcus, if that was even his name, wasn't an artist. He was a predator. Spent the next 3 days in shock. Celeste tried to comfort me, but I barely spoke. I printed everything, took it to the police, filed a report. They were polite, but dismissive, without direct harm. This is a gray area. They said digital harassment, maybe stalking. We'll look into it. I wanted to scream. I wanted someone to drag him out of whatever hideout he was lurking in and force him to explain why me, why us, why this. But I didn't get justice. I got silence. Daniel and I started talking more, comparing stories we found. 5 women in total, each with a similar experience, a deep, intense connection, sudden withdrawal, cryptic behavior, and always the journal. Some of them found notes, some found photos. One woman found a voice recorder under her bed. Her name was Simone. She had nearly married him. But just like the rest of us, she found out too late. He started posting online carefully, anonymously. I wanted to warn other women. I started a Reddit thread, a blog post, even a Medium article titled "The Stranger I Loved Was Never Real." It gained traction, hundreds of comments, some from women who said, "Wait, I think I dated him," to others from survivors, and a few from fake accounts defending him, saying we were crazy. We misunderstood that Marcus, or whatever name he was using, was misunderstood. But I knew in my gut this man was dangerous. And worse, he was still out there. I hired a private investigator. I drained my savings. I needed closure, not revenge, just truth. The pie took 3 weeks then. One day she called me. His real name is Elliot Granger, born in Ohio, multiple aliases, no criminal record. But he's been flagged in 3 states for harassment complaints. He worked briefly at a behavioral psychology lab in Portland, fired quietly. My stomach twisted. Behavioral psychologist that explained the journal, the tests, the simulations. I was part of some sick thesis, an experiment he never published, but kept performing, repeating, refining. I stared at a photo the pie sent me. It was him, same jawline, same eyes, but clean cut, wearing a lanyard, holding a clipboard. He looked like every bland researcher you ignore in a hallway. Not the man who whispered poetry in my sheets. Not the man who sketched my laugh. It was like staring at a ghost. I had to do something. I couldn't let him start again with someone else. So I emailed every woman I'd found. We met virtually. Then we decided we would expose him fully, legally, publicly. One of the women, Vanessa, was a lawyer. She helped U.S. draft a cease and desist. Another, Joy, worked in media. She pitched our story. A journalist picked it up. We didn't name him directly, but we told everything else, the patterns, the deceit, the women. The surveillance Seath article went viral suddenly. People were searching, connecting dots. More women came forward. A Twitter thread began linking different names: Eli G. Max Renner, Mark G. Simon Hale, all of them were him. He had reinvented himself in over a dozen cities. We even found a YouTube channel. He used to post interviews where he pretended to be a documentarian studying digital relationships. The channel vanished the moment we shared it, but the screenshots lived on. He was being hunted by the very web he wove. Still, he never replied, never denied, never surfaced. He disappeared into the silence he had always used to protect himself. But I wasn't scared of him anymore. I had power, voice, and sisters I never asked for but needed. We weren't victims anymore. We were a network, and the world was watching. It was supposed to be over after the article, after the messages, the virtual meetups with women across the country, the Google Drive folder that looked more like a crime scene archive than a heartbreak diary. But even with the story out in the world, Elliot Marcus Max, whatever name he wore that month, still haunted my every hour. Every man's voice behind me in a coffee shop made me freeze. Every gray hoodie felt like a thread. I began therapy again weekly. This time I journaled obsessively. And yet one night, deep in a Reddit thread a woman had created after recognizing him in our Medium article, I saw a comment, simple, chilling: "He's in Silver Lake now, calls himself Owen House on Melrose." I read it 6 times, checked the account. It was real. I felt my hands shake as I messaged the poster. She was 19, freshman at a local college, said he was dating her roommate, had the same journal, the same quiet voice, the same lie. My vision blurred with fury. How, after all this, how was he still out there doing it again? I booked a flight to LA the next day. I didn't tell my friends, not even Celeste, not until I landed. The part of me that still bled wanted to see him, wanted to make sure he was real and not just a ghost I had built in my mind. I found the house, 6214 Melrose Street, modern, quiet, nothing unusual, a blue Prius out front. I waited in a cafe across the street for hours. Then he walked out wearing a denim jacket, this time hair longer, beard trimmed. But it was him, and she was with him, a girl barely 20, smiling like I used to, laughing like she hadn't seen the journal yet. I gripped my cup so tight it cracked. My therapist had warned me seeing him again might re-traumatize me, but this wasn't trauma, this was rage-controlled cold. I followed from a distance, tracked his routine for 2 days. I know that sounds insane, but I needed closure. I needed to know what made him tick. The cafe he liked, the routes he took, the lies he told. Now, in the 3rd day I confronted him, was alone, sitting on a bench outside a bookstore reading some obscure sociology book. Of course, I walked up slowly. My heart was beating so loud I thought he might hear it. He looked up, his eyes widened. For a moment I wondered if he'd run, but he didn't. He smiled, not in fear, not in guilt, but in recognition, like I was a file he forgot to close. "Clarissa," he said, as if we were old friends. I was wondering how long it'd take you to find me. I sat down across from him without asking. "You're still doing it," I said. "You're still ruining people." He tilted his head. "Am I? Or are they just finally meeting who they are beneath the illusion?" My jaw clenched. "You used me, you used all of us." He chuckled, closed his book. "No, Clarissa, I studied. You offered more than you knew." I wanted to scream, but instead I did something bad. "Terry took out my phone. I'm recording this," I said calmly. "And this time there are lawyers, journalists, women who will actually believe each other." He blinked for the first time, just for a second. His mask cracked. "You wouldn't do that," he said. "I have nothing to lose," I replied. "But you built your whole life on shadows. Let's see how well you survive." And he stood quickly. "Be careful, Clarissa, you're emotionally unstable. People know that they also know about the fake names, the surveillance, the pattern, the evidence." He opened his mouth, then shut it, turned, walked away. I didn't follow. I had everything I needed: the recording, the witness, the confirmation, the real face of the stranger behind my smile. Within days, the story exploded again, this time with real names, real legal steps. Vanessa had prepared the paperwork. Cease and desist letters went out. He was reported in every state he'd ever operated in. Women he hadn't even hurt yet came forward, said they recognized him, thanked us for stopping him before it got too far. He shut down everything: social accounts, emails, phones gone again. But the world was watching now. No more hiding in poetic verses and quiet Cafes, no more experiments. We had broken the loop. We had saved someone else from becoming Clarissa number 4. But the real victory came months later, when we won the civil case, not when his landlord evicted him for falsifying his identity, not even when a national podcast covered our story. It came when I walked into a bookstore months later alone, saw my own name on a small shelf titled Modern Memoirs, and picked up the first copy of my published work, The Stranger Behind My Smile: How I Survived a Man with 100 Faces. The day the book was published, I didn't feel victorious. I felt hollow, like I had spent so long surviving the storm that I forgot what calm felt like. Seeing my name in bold font on the cover, Clarissa, each row should have been empowering, but I mostly felt like a stranger to it. I walked through the aisles of that bookstore in downtown Austin as people sipped lattes and browsed quietly, unaware that the girl from the cover was 3 feet away, clutching her copy like a lifeline. The story inside wasn't just pages, it was blood. Each sentence cost me sleep, friendships, security, and pieces of myself I may never get back, but it was real. And sometimes truth matters more than triumph. I went home the day, sat on the floor with a glass of wine, and allowed myself to reread the entire thing start to finish. My tears didn't fall during the worst parts, they fell during the silences. The spaces where I describe how I second-guessed myself, how I doubted my worth, how I apologized for other people's cruelty. That's what trauma does. It teaches you to shrink so others can be comfortable. In the months following the confrontation on Melrose Street, I tried to build a new life, one that wasn't shaped around anxiety and defense. I reconnected with Celeste, who cried when she found out I'd flown to LA alone. I told her everything, every page of the journal, every video, every confrontation. She held me for a long time and didn't say "I told you so," even though I knew she wanted to. I started therapy again, but this time I didn't go in with a survival mindset. I wanted to grow. I began painting again, not for him, not because of him, but despite him. My first piece, a shattered face rebuilding itself with gold seams like kintsugi. I hung it above my desk beside a quote that I'd once found underlined in one of his books: "Sometimes people disappear, so why? You can find yourself again." I reclaimed that line. It no longer belonged to his lies, it belonged to my healing. But closure, I've learned, isn't a what-I'm event, it's a practice. And sometimes the world has a strange way of testing whether your healing is real or just performance. It happened on a rainy Thursday in September, nearly 10 months after everything. I was speaking at a small bookshop event, just 20 people. I was reading a passage from the chapter where I described discovering I was Clarissa number 3 when a woman raised her hand, young, nervous, holding a tissue like it was armor. She asked, voice trembling, "What do you do when you're not sure if you're the only one right now?" The room went quiet. My chest tightened. I stepped down from the mic, walked over to her and knelt in front of her chair. I looked her in the eyes and whispered, "You listen to your gut, you save yourself, even if it feels like leaving someone you love." She nodded and we both cried. That night I didn't sleep. I stayed up emailing the other women from the group chat. I told them everything, how we needed to keep watching, keep supporting survivors, keep being loud. Eventually I started a foundation, Mirror Project, a nonprofit that helps women identify coercive emotional manipulation, provides therapy scholarships, and educates young adults on digital abuse and gaslighting. The first donation came from Daniel, the man who originally emailed me. After discovering Leaner was also a number, he sent $10,000 anonymously, but I knew it was him. The note read, "To the bravest woman I never met in person, thank you for not being silent." The second donation came from a university in Portland, and the one where Elia had briefly worked. They had opened a disciplinary review on former behavioral researchers and wanted to include our case. They even invited me to speak at a psychology ethics symposium. I declined. Some doors aren't meant to be reopened. Elliot was never arrested, never formally charged, but his face is no longer hidden. His names are listed across survivor sites, and every time he tries to start over, someone recognizes him. That's justice in its own small, burning way. A reputation haunted by the truth. But this story isn't about him anymore. It's about me, about the girls like me, about the power of collective pain turned into purpose. and it's about the terrifying beauty of surviving something that tried to unmake you. I am not the same Clarissa who read poems in a cafe and fell for the first man who understood her sadness. I am someone forged in fire, rebuilt with grace, and finally smiling. And this time it's real. Thank you for being part of my journey, for watching this far, and for giving space to voices like mine. If this story touched you, inspired you, or helped you in any way, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Let's keep these stories alive. Let's keep the truth louder than silence. See, this story is written and edited by Dark Life Side Diaries.